Mark Rogers TV, Alabama edition, joined each and every week by Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama, who provides us the most insight and perspective on Alabama football. Stephen, it's always a good time. You were the first one to notice, and you were the first to be a guest, Mark Rogers TV guest, with the Christmas tree in the background.
I see you going old Jolly St. Nicholas, Mark. I see you got the big tree there. Are there any gifts under there right now?
We're not part of early gift giving here in the Rogers household. It all comes out late in the season to be unwrapped when it needs to be. Not no. I'm a late shopper, and I think all the family is picked up after me.
Nothing wrong with that. We see you are trying to get yourself in the Christmas spirit. So salute to you, man. Salute.
I am in the Christmas spirit. A number of Alabama quarterbacks are now former quarterbacks trying to get into the Christmas spirit elsewhere. Meanwhile, we're talking about Cooper Bateman and David Cornwell, two highly touted quarterbacks, especially Cornwell. We've had a number of segments where we've talked about Cornwell and his ability and his vying for the Alabama starting quarterback position. Of course, Jalen Hurts has certainly taken that over. Blake Barnett moving on to what is now Arizona State. That was just announced just a couple days ago. So, wow, these guys transfer, obviously scared away by some new arrivals headed our way in 2017.
Absolutely, Mark. The news of Cooper Bateman broke toward the mainstream on Monday. And then on today, we have David Cornwell, who took to social media to announce his leaving from the Alabama program. Both guys brought a lot of experience to the team. Both guys are part of 3 Southeastern Conference championships, of course, a national title last year. Cooper Bateman in particular was the holder on special teams for Adam Griffith where field goals are concerned. He also had the one start last year against Ole Miss. Of course, it didn't go as well as Cooper Bateman and Alabama would have liked it to go, but Cooper Bateman did get the start in that game. Now, according to a lot of the people I've talked with, despite Cooper Bateman requesting the transfer and getting that release, he intends to stay with Alabama until after the college football playoff. Now, as for David Cornwell, the situation with him is still a bit muddled, but with Cooper Bateman, despite the transfer, he intends to stay until after the playoff.
Stephen, I would hope they would stick around. They do understand football is a pretty physical game, and there are 2 pretty worthy opponents out there potentially, and all it takes is one play, and they're playing for a national championship.
Absolutely, and as good as Jalen Hurts has been this year, despite some mistakes, you have to have those backups on roster, not just on roster, but backups with experience. And both guys, Bateman and Cornwell, have a ton of experience within the system. They have picked up a lot on what Lane Kiffin has brought to them and thrown at them. And plus, both guys have strong chemistry with this team. So all of those mechanisms put together, you would want to see those guys stay. And also just for the love of the team, for the love of your brothers that you've built that relationship with, that camaraderie with, you want to remain on the team until it's all said and done. But with Cooper Bateman, it's being reported that he does intend to stay. With David Cornwell, news should come out in the coming days on what will his move be.
Yeah, sometimes we think of football as a 4-month sport, but in no way is it anything close to that, except for a couple limited breaks. These guys are together all the time, all year round, working out in the film room, sometimes in the classroom, working out together. It's just a camaraderie. And as you say, to let your team down this close to a championship, and obviously these guys are disappointed because they came to a place like Alabama to win the starting job, to get significant playing time, to play in big games on big stages. And they've got enough talent that the NFL is a possibility. I'm not going to say a probability, a possibility out there for them. So they're thinking long-term, they're thinking career, and they play football to actually get on the field. So they're free to leave and free to do what they need to for their own enjoyment and careers. But you like to see them stick with the team and see it to the end, because we're only looking at the next 4 to 5 weeks.
Absolutely. And as we both mentioned, Mark, Jalen Hurts, as good as he's been, God forbid an injury should occur. Because if an injury does occur, you're looking at if there's no if there is no Bateman or there is no Cornwell, should an injury occur, now you're looking at either a Josh Pallet or a Montana Murphy or a walk-on quarterback, so to speak, that you have to really snatch up and bring in there. And neither of those guys, despite the talent that they may have, they don't have the on-field experience. So it would be difficult on Jalen Hurts to go out there knowing that if both Bateman and Cornwell were to leave, that's tough.
All right, you dropped the name Lane Kiffin a number of times in talking about the quarterback situation at Alabama. Say what you will about Lane Kiffin and his head coaching stops with the Raiders and in college at USC and Tennessee. He had much success at those two stops in spots. Didn't end well in either place, and of course the airport situation sticks in our minds of college football fans in regards to his demise there at Southern Cal. But Lane Kiffin, a possible hot commodity, and of course Houston is looking for a head coach, Stephen.
Houston definitely looking for a head coach right now, and it's not just targeting Lane Kiffin, the Cougars, targeting the likes of Lincoln Riley, the offensive coordinator for Oklahoma, and also a little bit of Les Miles talk in there as well for the Houston Cougars. Now, according to a bunch of reports, it's been Lincoln Riley that's been nailing these interviews. Riley, who was the quarterback at Texas Tech in 2002. Of course, he backed up Cliff Kingsbury prior to him getting the starting job. Cliff Kingsbury, now the head coach of Texas Tech himself. Lincoln Riley also, from 2003 to 2009, that's 7 years, he was an assistant and a wide receivers coach on staff prior to going to East Carolina and now in Oklahoma as the offensive coordinator with the Sooners last year, got the Sooners to the college football playoff. Of course, it lost to Clemson. And of course, this season, Oklahoma, as it stands, with two guys in the Heisman conversation as finalists in Dede Westbrook and Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield, a 3,000-yard passer this season, 38 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. So a pretty impressive resume Lincoln Riley has put together. If he should get the nod from Houston, what I've been hearing is don't be surprised if Lane Kiffin takes the LSU job as an offensive coordinator.
So a little bit more freedom probably there at LSU and a challenge. The challenge may be a bit compromised at Alabama because of all the athletes and because of what he's been able to do, bringing it from sometimes a pedestrian offense, despite all the talent, to a dynamic offense under first Blake Sims and then transitioning through the last two quarterbacks. But there at LSU, that would be a challenge. He would have plenty of talent to work with, but in resurrecting that offense.
It would be a challenge because then you have to look at how much do you really deviate from the LSU style of play. LSU is more of an I formation team, tall sweep to the right, tall sweep to the left, run the football and play behind the defense. And what Lane Kiffin would look to do is get that quarterback more so involved, passes to the perimeter, let your playmakers do work on the outside. And with that being said, of course, 5-star recruits at wide receiver would love that. 5-star recruits at tight end would love that. And even some 5-star running backs that like to catch the ball out the backfield would love that. But the question would be, how much would you really, really deviate from LSU's traditional style of play to get that done? Now, I know Ed Orgeron has stated he wants an offensive mind and the best offensive mind in the business, because change has to take place. But how much are you willing to evolve your offense to get that change to take place is the biggest question for LSU.
Hey, Stephen, you caught a glimpse of my Christmas tree and you automatically asked me about the Rodgers approach to gift giving around the Christmas season. Now, we know some Alabama players aren't going to be short of rewards this Christmas. The Christmas has come early for a number of Alabama football players. Jonathan Allen, by no surprise, has made quite a haul with the SEC Defensive Player of the Year, the Hendricks Award. Ted Hendricks, the great Oakland Raiders and Baltimore Colts linebacker, Bronco Nagurski of college and Pro Football Hall of Fame status going way back to the 1920s. Jonathan Allen, for people that don't focus on the defensive side of the football, watch the ball flying through the air through most of these conferences, this guy has become just a monumental force on the defensive side of the ball. What makes him so special?
What makes him so special is his attention to detail. Jonathan Allen, very, very disciplined, very humble young man. And when I got a chance to talk to him back in August, one of his keys was just getting to understand and learn his teammates better. That was one of the main things he focused on going into the season, understanding his teammates and being able to play the run more. Last year, didn't really play much. He was part of a 16 to 17-man rotation, a big-time pass rusher, but wasn't really in on the run plays, wasn't an every down player. And that was his focus this season. And since he's become that and working under Jeremy Pruitt, you really see the nastiness of Allen coming to play. He's getting off the ball. He's attacking offensive linemen. He's getting after the quarterback, but he's been a force at stopping the run as well, captaining the nation's top leading rush defense, giving up just 63.4 yards a game. So it's the attention to detail. It's his chance of being able to play more, being that every down guy, and really just being hungry. He's been a hungry individual this season.
Dick Butkus, one of the legends of college and professional football, one of the meanest and toughest and most physical linebackers in the game, both at the University of Illinois and the Chicago Bears, and the recipient of the Butkus Award, Reuben Foster.
Absolutely no drop in that when you talk between Dick Butkus and Reuben Foster. Reuben, it's been an interesting story with Reuben because we remember him as the guy who had the Auburn tattoo on in 2013. Everybody thought he's going to Auburn. The kids from Auburn High School, you had every Tiger fan excited, but hold up a minute. He lasers off the Auburn tattoo, switches to Alabama, spurns his hometown. Everybody's upset. He comes to Alabama. He has 2 years of which he's a stalwart on special teams, but can't seem to stay healthy. And then last year, really had a huge year, 73 tackles, was finally able to stay on the field. And then this season, the question was, could he have that same lateral quickness that Reggie Ragland had? Could he be instinctive? Could he dissect the play? Could he really lead a defense from the inside linebacker position? And by God, he's done it. A fantastic job, 95 tackles on the year to lead the team, was the MVP of the SEC championship game with 11 total tackles, 2.5 of those for loss and 2 sacks, just flies around the field, actually dropped about 10 to 15 pounds to get into the best shape of his life, being able to dissect the football and very much so deserving to be a projected first-round pick heading into next year's draft. Reuben Foster is an absolute stud, and it's incredible how he's gone from being the guy that you thought would go to Auburn to the guy that's become probably one of the better linebackers in Alabama history.
Hey, Stephen, we see it all the time. Freshmen come in and they don't have enough opportunity early in camp and going into the first game of the season to earn a starting job right out of the gate, but then they make an impact. Jalen Hurts, one of those guys. But to not only become SEC Freshman of the Year, but to become the league's Offensive Player of the Year, with a guy by the name of Leonard Fournette, also Chad Kelly, Josh Dobbs, a number of outstanding offensive performers. It's quite a testament to his work ethic, his ability to learn the offense, and his dynamic playmaking ability.
Mark, absolutely. And I was one of very few people that boldly went out and stated that this is going to be the starting quarterback for Alabama. And
yes, you called it.
I mean, this young man, when he left high school to come to the University of Alabama, he is tabbed as the guy to emulate Deshaun Watson. What a tall task for an 18-year-old kid from Channelview, Texas, just 20 minutes east of Houston. So Jalen Hurts, he does that job And then the spring game, 11 of 15 passing for 120 yards and a touchdown. Really had a great spring. Really had a great summer camp. And though a lot of people were starting to kind of see this could be the guy, you still had that hint of doubt because not a lot of people felt like Saban's not going to put a true freshman out there. He's not going to start a true freshman. He's too young. He's not experienced enough. We have some older guys on staff. But Hurts carried himself with a chip on his shoulder and a much bigger chip than what Vince Young had in 2005 when he took Texas to the national championship game and defeated USC that year. Jalen Hurts against Southern California, first game of the season, didn't get the start but came in, had 4 touchdowns total. Against Western Kentucky, his first debut as a starter, 287 passing yards, which was a school record. And from the Ole Miss game, where he takes a shot in the jaw from Marquise Haynes, one of the better pass rushers in college football, but the way he responded from the hit, not getting down on himself, not being depressed, he has that fiery personality. He's encouraging teammates. He's lifting up players. He goes out there and has a 3-play, 50-yard scoring drive, and everybody on Alabama's team, once it happened, was like, whoa, we officially have our guy. We officially have our man. So from the Ole Miss game, you really kind of saw him take off. And even after a mistake was made, his facial expression never changed. His body expressions never changed. He went out there and he handled business. And that's a lot when you talk about a true freshman playing in the SEC, let alone the mecca of college football. When you talk about Alabama, Jalen Hurts is a special kid.
Alabama has its guy. You know what, Stephen M? We also have our guy as well. It's you. So Mark Rogers TV Alabama edition comes your way every Wednesday night, but only—
You're too modest, man. You're too modest right now.
Only because of the insight and the information that comes from this guy, Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama. Please join him there for tons of insight into the Tide as Bama's ready to make another college football playoff run. We join you every Wednesday night and release this on YouTube and also on Podbean, the audio version there as well. Stephen M., it's always a pleasure.
No problem, Mark. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening.